I'd love to help you get vulnerable. Let's get naked.
Hey everyone, I'm Anne. Welcome to the Let's Get Naked podcast, where we dive deep into vulnerability. In this space, we'll explore what triggers us, uncover the patterns holding us back, and discover how to take charge of our own growth. If you're ready to dig in, be vulnerable, and face the tough stuff, then buckle up. It's time to get naked. There's something truly powerful about individuals who've faced pain, real deep gut-wrenching pain, and decide to turn it into purpose. These are the people who've been to hell and back, not just to survive, but to learn and grow. And when they rise from that suffering, they don't just keep their wisdom to themselves, they turn it into a mission to guide, to heal, to help others navigate their own dark nights of the soul. These people don't just go through the fire, they emerge from it with the courage to hold space for others to walk through it too. The truth is, it takes something extraordinary to listen to that calling from the universe, to take your pain, your struggles, your scars, and make them your life's work. It's not about wearing a healer label or becoming some guru who sits on a pedestal. It's about being brave enough to admit that you've been broken, and instead of letting it defeat you, you've decided to help others rebuild. These individuals know what it's like to feel lost, overwhelmed, and utterly powerless. But instead of retreating, they step forward and say, I've been there, and you can heal too. They show up, raw, real, and unapologetic, and create spaces where others can start their own healing journeys. What's even more incredible is that these people don't judge others for their pain. They hold space, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges them. They create the room for healing to happen, not by offering perfect solutions or quick fixes, but by being present, by listening deeply, and by offering compassion. They understand that healing is messy, non-linear, and deeply personal, so they stand by while others navigate their own paths, knowing that true transformation takes time. This is the magic of those who have turned their own trauma into a mission. They've answered the universe's call to not just survive, but to guide others towards their own resilience. They've chosen to be the lighthouse for others lost in the storm. And the bravery it takes to do this, to open up, to be vulnerable, to be present for others, cannot be overstated. It's a gift, and it's one that the world desperately needs. These individuals are the unsung heroes, holding space for us to heal, grow, and ultimately thrive. And if there's one thing we need more of in this world, it's people who have learned how to turn their pain into something powerful enough to help others rise. On today's episode, we're going to be talking with someone very important to me in my healing journey. She is someone that I work with regularly to do intense work. Among other things, she guides people through breathwork sessions that are powerful and impactful. Breathwork is an incredible healing modality that taps into the most powerful tool you already have, your breath. It's always with you, available in every moment, and when used consciously, it can unlock profound healing. Through intentional breathing techniques, breathwork helps release stored emotions, reduce stress, and calm the mind, creating space for deeper self-awareness and transformation. It's a simple yet powerful practice that can support you on your healing journey, whether you're processing trauma, seeking clarity, or just looking to connect more deeply with yourself. By harnessing the breath, you tap into an ancient, accessible resource that can guide you towards emotional balance, inner peace, and overall well-being. Breathwork isn't just about relaxation, it's about using your breath as a gateway to healing, growth, and personal empowerment. Today, we're stripping it all off with Kseniya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love for you to start by just kind of describing in your own words what it is that you do, just to kind of set the stage so that people know when I say that we work together, what does that even look like?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I just want to say, wow, you nailed so many of the key points in your introduction and with everything you were saying. And really, I think what I do is hold space.
Yes.
You landed on it so beautifully. I'm not ever trying to fix anything within you, outside of you. I'm never trying to change anything. I am just holding space for what is. Mm-hmm. I'm meeting people where they are. I'm seeing them. I'm offering compassion. And I'm holding space for deep transformation. Mm-hmm. With the breath, it is so wild what is possible. And it's really hard, as you know, to say what that is or what that looks like without trying it yourself.
Sure.
Because everyone's experience is always so different. Sometimes there's tears. Sometimes there's laughter. Sometimes all in one session, there's tears, then laughter, then tears.
Yeah.
It is really so profound what is possible with just the breath. I think so many people think to have a transcendental, wild experience, you have to go on to the rainforest or on some journey or leave for a month or 3 months, when really all you need is like half an hour to an hour, your own breath and somewhere to lay down, you know, and the presence to be able to go there.
Yeah.
So I think that if everyone was aware of what is capable with just our breath, something like you mentioned, we use every day, we're already so aware of it, but if people could know what is possible with it, I wonder what the world would look like.
I know. Well, and it's interesting because for our listeners, the first time that I was introduced to breathwork, it was when I was in rehab 8 years ago. And it was so incredibly powerful. I had an out-of-body experience. I was able to really witness things kind of from the ceiling, you know, and deal with some trauma that came up. And I was like, holy shit, what just happened? Because it's better than any, you know, like anything that you can do. And then after I came home, obviously life happens and I'm just trying to get my life together. But then last year I was in California on a trip and I was at going to a gym that had, you know, some wellness place that had some breathwork classes. And it just reminded me, oh my God, that was really powerful for me when I did that. And when I came back, I did some research and I found Kseniya and just adore her. I have, turned my life into a little bit of a, people would say weird, because on Saturday nights, once a month, I have Kseniya come over to the house and I invite some of the people in my inner circle to come over and do a joint breathwork session. And it is powerful stuff. And, you know, being able to really release things, like you said, crying, laughing. Sometimes you have a really, you know, high uplifting experience. Sometimes you have a gross pulling up trauma and releasing it experience. But what she's talking about as far as just holding space is a very important thing to have as you're going through your healing journey, because you know, you say that to some people and they're like, holding space, what does that even mean? But if you've ever had someone hold space for you, or if you've ever held space for someone else, because it doesn't necessarily have to be in breathworks, it can be in other things too. Just being there for someone, being willing to listen, being willing to not judge, being willing to allow them their own agency to really be able to kind of work through the different things that they've been carrying around. That's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing to receive, and it's a powerful thing to offer to people as well. So how long have you been doing the breath works or the, you know, the healing modalities that you do?
Right. So over 10 years at this point. And when I first found breath work, I mean, it was like your experience, you know, I was bawling, I was releasing, I mean, it was just wild. And I was like, how did I not know about this? How is this possible?
Right.
Because at that point I'd been on my spiritual path for, you know, 4 or 5 years, like deep. And I feel like in the spiritual community, people always say, you just got to let it go. Just let it go. Release it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we want to let it go. We don't want to hold on to that pain, that trauma, that grief. But like, how?
Right.
You know, so when I found breathwork, it was like that missing piece of like, here is how I can physically, tangibly, somatically move this out and through my body.
Yeah.
And not just in a way where I'm releasing it, but in a way where I'm sitting with it, being with it, feeling it, really processing it, and then letting it move through.
Yeah. It makes it so it doesn't have power over you anymore. All of this shit that we don't realize we even have pushed down there. That's the powerful part for me is, you know, after we do these sessions and being able to sit and talk with people in my circle about what, you know, what came up for you or what was that like for you, and being able to listen to other people's experiences has been really neat, you know. And for me, I'll go see Kseniya by myself. I'll see her with one other person, you know, when people are interested and say like, what does that even look like? And every single time it just blows the doors off of everyone that I bring to come see you. And so we will definitely put on the show's notes how to get in touch with Kseniya, so that if you're interested and want to find out more about it, that you can, because I think it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Will you take us back a little bit and kind of give us a little history of what makes you who you are, where you were born, what your family life looked like, kind of what are some of the ingredients that make up your recipe?
Absolutely. So I was born in Russia, in St. Petersburg, Russia. And me and my mom moved to the States when I was only 6 years old. And so it was just her and I. And at that point, neither of us spoke English.
Wow.
So it was a very big move. And at that point, not a ton of people were immigrating from Russia. So it really was special. And my mom, she's a very strong, very independent woman. And when she gets an idea, she's following it through. Yeah. So she had this vision of us moving to America, and she didn't know what that would look like or be like or, you know, anything that would come from it. But she had this vision. And so she made it happen. And we traveled through, first we landed in Cleveland, Ohio. Then from there we went on to Omaha, Nebraska. And then from there we landed in California. So we kind of did, you know, a path through, and it was really just her and I, and we learned the language. She ended up going back and getting a degree from Creighton University, becoming a physical therapist, and now she's the director of her facility. So she really, when people talk about like the American dream, that was really my mom. You know, we moved here, she was washing dishes at like a pizza place for under the table money, and for like, you know, probably $3 an hour or something. And she's really built like a very successful, very beautiful life and career out here. So it was very inspiring to see that. And on the flip side, there was definitely some challenges because my dad and really all the rest of my family was still in Russia. So, you know, that was a lost connection. And my dad and I are closer now, but I think growing up, it was hard, you know, to grow up with just one parent. And And at that time too, you know, now we can WhatsApp and, you know, send messages and videos and pictures. But at that time, you know, international calls were a lot more difficult.
And expensive.
So very expensive. Yeah. Especially for us at that time. So it wasn't something that was as accessible. So I think, you know, that part was definitely harder. And along with my grandparents were back in Russia. And my aunt ended up moving out here with my cousin and my uncle. So that was really cool. They landed in Omaha, Nebraska. And so, you know, some of my mom's family, my grandma and my grandpa ended up coming out. So it was nice because we did, you know, build some family out here. But still, I think, you know, moving from your country, especially at a young age, it is difficult. So it's funny, I was just talking to my husband about this, but I was so blessed because, you know, landing right in the Midwest, I had a very strong accent. I'm sure I didn't really know any words.
Sure.
But I always told him that I never really felt like an outsider. No one ever at my school like made fun of me or, you know, made fun of the way I spoke or anything like that. So I was so lucky to have that immigrant experience because I know that's not the case for a lot of people.
Sure.
So I'm very grateful for the way that panned out.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the same time, it's wild coming here and I remember just going into a store and they have like those samples, you know, where you can like sample different things or you like, you know, it's like the loose bin. So I'd like grab a pretzel or something. I'm like, this is so crazy. They just like have food like this. You can just have like, to me, it was just like different little cultural things like that were so mind blowing and so different than, you know, in Russia, we still had like a store where you go for milk, a store where you go for meat, a store where you go for bread. So it was like a very, you know, it's even like the idea of a supermarket was like, mind-blowing to me at the time. Yeah. So I think, you know, culturally it was really interesting coming here. And so that was kind of my younger childhood. And then, oh my gosh, when I was about 12 or 13, I just went so wild. And so that was like real. And I think at the time I was really searching for like these big transcendental wild experiences, which I still am, but I just didn't know how to find them in a healthy way. And I was still in some ways searching for ceremony and ritual. And I talk about this all the time because even if you think, I know you said that you've had some issues with drugs and alcohol. You shared about rehab. I think even, you know, as an alcoholic, as an addict, there's these rituals and these and like ceremonies and these ways of obtaining and then using and then, you know, so it's very ritualistic in nature. So I wonder how many people are seeking out a ritual experience or a ceremony or a transcendental moving experience, but just don't know where to look, you know? And so I really think maybe that was me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally does, because even when you said that, it made me think that as far as just like you said with the drinking, it very much is like you have your whole ritual around that, or whatever your drink is, or whatever.
Yes.
It is very much similar to that. So that
Totally.
has my curiosity piqued about that for myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because I think, so I wonder if we were to expose rituals and ceremonies and even like rites of passage to our kids and to our communities at large, maybe people could find these same things that I was looking for, but just in a healthier, better way. And because for me, sometimes now when I do breath work, it is like better than any psychedelic trip I've had, better than mushrooms, better, than anything.
Yes.
And so it's like, if I would have known that at 13 or 14,
sure,
maybe, instead of turning to other things, I could have been like, oh, wow, this is accessible just within me, just with the breath.
Yeah.
So I think about that sometimes. But anyways, going back to then, that wasn't even on my mind at all. I was just, really looking to have the biggest, wildest, craziest experience. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun until it wasn't.
So you, this is like from where we left off, was you were like 13, starting to do that. Was your mom working a lot, not around?
Yeah,
you were an only child,
my mom was
like
working.
kind of had.
Yeah, that is so insightful of you to say, because my mom was working a ton. She was a single mom. She was just, really trying to excel in her career, really trying to build her clients, really trying to build herself.
Sure.
And so for me, I was I love the freedom, at the moment. And so my house was always kind of the house that, you could always come to, you're always safe, even if you'd been drinking or whatever,
Sure.
My mom would take you in, offer you a pickle, try and sober you up.
I love it.
So it was a lot of fun, like I said, but there was definitely a lot of boundaries pushed and a lot of boundaries that were non-existent growing up as well.
Yeah.
And that's even something as an adult I'm still working through.
Sure.
With setting my own boundaries with my kids or with my husband, or not overstepping boundaries as well. So, I think the things that we experience in our childhood really very much carry through.
Agreed.
And so as an adult, we're kind of trying to process and see what that looks like in our own life now.
Yeah. And how that contributed to you. I think a lot of people, when I speak to them and they don't realize how powerful and impactful your childhood is, it's like, that's where everything stems from.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't realize that and you're not kind of addressing that or looking at that, willing to be self-aware about some of the things, or reprogramming, getting rid of limiting beliefs, whatever it is that you're working through, if you haven't looked at that, to me, it's powerful work. It's
some of the most powerful work.
That's what I think too, right? I look at that and I'm like, as soon as I started going inward on myself and getting curious about myself and why do I do this, or why do I do that, or why do I have this limiting belief? Does this really resonate with me? I've told people I was raised with a lot of organized religion, didn't resonate with me. Like at a molecular level, it felt like it was grating against everything that I believed in, And so being able to really say, okay, fine, that doesn't, but what does land for me? What does resonate? And for me, that's been my entire spiritual journey of, okay, what hits for me, right? So that's awesome. Yeah.
And I think too, so much of the stuff that we're healing is not just for ourselves, it's for our parents and for their parents and for their parents' parents. So a lot of the work that comes up with breathwork specifically is very generational in nature. It's very ancestral, going even further back in nature. And a lot of our ancestors didn't have the time or space or means to do this type of work. So I always say, as we heal, we're really doing this work for our whole lineage, which is so powerful to think about. Like, we get to be the ones that do it now, right? And also, it's like, shit, we have to be the ones that do it now.
Exactly. And it's all about perspective, right? Because it's like, I have to do this or I get to do this.
Exactly.
And so for me, I definitely come from the I get to do this,
Absolutely.
right? Because if I'm going to seem like, oh, fuck, I got to do this again. It's like, no, I want it to be.
We get to.
Yeah, I want it to be this adventure. I want it to be this exploration of figuring things out.
Exactly. And so not just on an internal level, right? But now the external circumstances are safe enough, are stable enough, are supportive enough for us to get to explore and to get to have the time and the space and the means to dive deep and to really see, to unpack all of that stuff, you know? Because for our parents or for our grandparents, maybe they were just in survival mode. Maybe they were just making those ends meet. And if you don't have, it's like that hierarchy of needs, right? If you don't have those basic needs in place, it's like, how are you going to have time or space or even mental capacity to be able to go deep and to do this work. So it's really a privilege to be here today and, getting to dive into all of this.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned something about the generational aspect of it, and we had done a really important session at your studio where we had done kind of the feminine energy and the female line on my side. And it's interesting because after we did that, my mom and I spoke a couple of months ago, and she said something about going to like a trauma conference, and she said there's just something that's opened in me, and I just had to chuckle a little bit because I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but my mom has never been like, they grew up where therapy wasn't really a thing, so to be a woman at 75 years old who's like, I'm going to dive into this, I'm like, I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't.
Can I just?
Yes, kudos.
That's incredible.
It is, because it's so powerful, and so I was able to share with her just a little bit about our session, and that I had done some work on that, and that I was really proud of that being something that, let's open some things up. Let's talk about the stuff. They didn't used to do that. There was very much shame and guilt and everything that surrounded them, and we've talked about women not having choices. It's interesting because people now look at things and think, well, why didn't they just do it different? Why didn't they just whatever? They didn't have choices. Women weren't equal earners. Women weren't able to just do what they wanted to do. It was a lot of different circumstances. Also, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have whatever. You didn't know if what you were going through was normal or not,
Right.
So being able to kind of open that up has been super powerful.
Absolutely. And it's wild because it's just, we think, and it's like just a generation back, look at how much has changed. Look at, and then if you think back like 3 generations, what about 5 generations?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's wild to think about how many options and how free we truly are.
Yes.
So it is really, really cool. It's a special time to be alive, I think.
I agree.
And it's just incredible to be able to be able to do this work right here and right now. It is just incredible that we have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I love that what you said about your mom.
I know.
Because truly this work does carry forth. And I want to point out something really important here, because not only does it carry forth to the people that came before us, but also to our own kids and the people that come after us, all through our lineage, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, if we break that generational stuff now, if we set a new, different way of being, if we create new habits, new patterns, new neural pathways, now it gets to look so much different for our kids as well.
Absolutely.
So it's really the work that I do. It's really potent, because not only is it healing those that came before you, as you saw with your own mom, but also like, what about our daughters and our sons and, everyone that comes after. So
yeah, when we were on that trip a year ago, my son and my husband would go with me to the breathwork sessions and stuff, and absolutely love it, right? I would drag my brother along. I drag all sorts of people in. And so again, maybe that's not the popular thing. It's like, hey, you want to go heal some trauma with me? But everyone that knows me knows I'm an odd duck. And that's, it's not like, hey, you want to go to the bar? It's like, hey, you want to come over? We're going to open the spirit world and heal some trauma, some generational trauma. But you know what? I have a group of people that's like, fuck yeah, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And those are my people. Those are my people. The people that are like, let's get deep. Let's do some stuff, not just the rinse, lather, repeat. Let's heal some things, I send my daughters to you, as you know. I mean, I can't brag about you highly enough of just, you're such an amazing person to hold space. And like you said, there's no magic in any of that, but what you do is such important work that it is magic, I mean, there is magic in that. I'm not trying to take that away from you. Exactly. It's like, I'm just going to put a little magic there, but holding space for people is really, really important, as you know, and you've been able to just witness that. What is that like? I just thought, what a beautiful life you have to be able to witness.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
I would love to talk about that. And I want to speak to what you just said too about, people are choosing to have these different experiences now, right? Before it'd be like, hey, let's go out to dinner or something, or hey, let's go grab a drink or whatever, right?
Yes.
But you would be surprised. It is becoming so much more mainstream. Like you say, you're an odd duck, but honestly, like we're getting more and more odd ducks out here, truly.
Yes.
Because now even like I'll have bachelorette parties reach out to me, right? Yeah, and they want to do breath work. They want to do shamanic healing.
Yes.
And it's like, really? Like for your bachelorette, this is so cool. Or people celebrating their birthdays, they want to have these experiences. So more and more, I think, is becoming mainstream, even to the point where like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reached out.
Oh, are you serious?
I did a shamanic ceremony and breath work for them.
Yes.
The basketball wives, right? So this is now VH1, Bravo, millions of people are getting to
Yes.
see this. So the fact that people are even open to
Yes.
witnessing this, the fact that I can hold space and people can have that experience and be curious about it, like that's mainstream at this point, you know?
I
Like we're
agree
no
with you.
longer the odd ones out. Like
Yes.
this is spreading. So to see that kind of growth, to see people open-minded enough, because I think back like 10 years ago, oh my gosh, they would never have that kind of thing on TV, I don't think. You know, it's like, no.
Yeah.
But now that it is, you know, really entering, I think, that group consciousness, that collective consciousness, and people are open to it, like, amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, maybe people are starting to realize the more work you do on yourself, the better we are collectively, right? So it's like, you know, I would see those things earlier in life about like, be the change you want to see and like all of that stupid, corny, whatever, but it's not wrong. You know, it's like the more that I work on myself and just improve myself, go all in on myself, the better it is for everyone, for myself, for the people that are, you know, connected to me, the people that are outside of that connection. I mean, it's powerful.
Because if you think about it like this, if we all work on ourselves and if we all better ourselves, if we all come back to our own truth, the whole world is better. That's every single person, right?
Yes. It's just trying to get that message through to all of these, like we've spent generations creating people pleasers. We've spent generations creating people that are taking care of other people and that it feels selfish to take care of yourself. And it's like, we have to break that. We have to break that stigma. We have to break that mindset because it is more powerful to go in on yourself. If you go in on yourself, you're better for yourself. You're better for everyone else that's around you. Put your own mask on first, you know, and that's the work that I do, you know, with Casey or with other people. It's like, I'm trying to break that decades-long people pleaser stuff, which also she got handed down from her mother, right? And so her being able to really see that and see the impact that that's having on her daughter, to be able to look and say like, wow, mom's really paying attention to herself and bettering herself. Look at that spider web that goes out from that. I mean, it gives me goosebumps just to think about. Yes, let's be the change for, you know, for all of the things.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And then to answer your other question, you said, what is that like, right? To hold that space. Incredible. Yeah. It is so beautiful to witness people coming face to face with those shadow aspects of themselves that they hide away from, shy away from, feel guilt or shame around. Like to bring that stuff up and to show that the dark and the light make us whole. Yes. Right? Like it's not all just love and light. We do have these shadow aspects of ourselves, and instead of like hiding or stuffing, what if we just integrate them and say, I see you. Yeah. And you're welcome here. Yeah, absolutely. It's okay. Right? So to witness people having those moments, it like sometimes in sessions, it will bring tears to my eyes because it is so profound and it is so beautiful to witness. And the other thing I will say, it's so fun to do this work because each session is so different. So, so people will come to me, I've never worked with them before. I never know what to expect. So to hold space for them and where they're at in that moment, it is always so unique. And then everyone also comes in with their own spiritual team, which is very different flavors. And that's really fun to witness. So even for me as a practitioner, I'm always learning something new. I'm always witnessing something different. I'm always connecting the spirit in a different way through people. So it's like, I'm always spiritually growing as well, which is such a gift. And it's really, really fun to answer your question. It is really cool to witness. And, you know, I think it's definitely not for everyone because so many deep emotions come up. So much anger and rage can come up. So much grief and pain can come up, right? And for some people, that can be very uncomfortable to even be in the same room as. But for me, I'm like, yes, let's go there. Let's unearth that. We are on the right track, right? Like, this is what we're here for, is what I always say to my clients when that stuff starts coming up. It's like, this is what we're fucking here for.
Absolutely, let's
go. Do it. Yeah. So I think it does take a certain type of personality to be able to hold all of that. And for me, you know, I've personally run the whole gamut of emotions, of things, of experiences. I always say I've lived like 10 different lives, you know? So it would take a lot to surprise me. Yes. You know? And so I think that that's a really good characteristic for a space holder is just kind of that like, fucking cool. You know, what else?
Bring it on.
Yes,
bring it on.
Exactly.
What is the biggest group of people that you have held space for? I know that you've come to my house and we've had, you know, maybe 8 or 10 or 6 or 8 people, kind of is the biggest one that I've been part of. But
yeah, so the biggest group I did about 2 years ago is over at the Andaz Resort in Scottsdale, and it was 44 people is what I cut it at. And I didn't have anyone else holding space with me. It was just me. And as you can imagine, that group energy is so powerful, right? And I am only one person. So, people are having releases. I'm here, I'm there, I'm here. It is so much fun, honestly, to hold space for, because what happens in a group setting, as you know, it's we all bring our own stuff out, and then that can trigger something in someone else. And usually when people say trigger, it's like viewed as a negative connotation, but in this case, it's something so beautiful, right? Because say you're trying to hold it together and you're like, oh, I'm feeling some stuff, but I don't know. And then someone next to you just starts screaming. Right. Then you're like, oh yeah, like,
I could do it too.
I want that, or
it gives you permission.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the perfect way to put it. Or, if you're kind of not a big crier and you're like, oh, but I feel these emotions coming, but I'm just not comfortable going there. But all of a sudden someone next to you is sobbing, then you're like, yeah, I can do that too. I have permission to go there as well. And I love that you said permission, because what I do at the beginning of almost every group is I say, right now we are giving ourselves permission to show up fully and to go there. And I even have people raise their hand. Yeah. I'm like, do you give yourself permission? Yeah. Yeah. Because honestly, 9 times out of 10, the only thing standing in our own way is us.
Well, and that's a problem too. I think we've spent all of this time of like pushing that down, and nobody wants to be embarrassed in front of anybody else. And so you don't listen to your gut or to your knowing about what you're supposed to do. For me, in the last couple of years, I've really tuned into that to the point where, if I'm in ceremony with somebody, with not necessarily breathworks, but other things that I'm doing, if my body is telling me, get in child's pose, if my body is telling me lay down, if my body is telling me go do whatever it is, I am quiet enough to listen to that whisper. And I remember I was doing a ceremony where it was intense and I didn't know anyone that was there, and my body just kept telling me, get in child's pose, get in child's pose, get in child's pose. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, no one else is doing that. Everyone's sitting Indian style, like I don't want to do that. I literally did, and just had the best possible release, because you listen to your own body, and it's like, it needs you to do that. It needs you to honor it. It's done with being silent. It's done with you not listening to yourself and trying to like be cool so nobody else thinks whatever. Fuck what other people think. Fuck what other people think.
I always say that.
I know, it's like that's nonsense. Do you be on your own journey? That's the important component of that.
And that takes a certain level of trust, right? So you go to your own ceremony and you're like, well, what does my body want to do? Or is it okay to cry? Or is it okay to move, right? And then you do it a couple of times, and then you're like, okay, I can trust myself, right? I can step into my experience. I can embody my experience. And you have more space to actually hear. So I always tell my clients, I'm like, if you need to move, move. If you need to scream, scream. If you need to dance, dance. You know your body better than I can ever cue it, right? Like, I don't know what it's feeling like. I don't know what the best optimal way for you to release right now would be, but if you tune in, if you quiet down enough to hear, you do know. So I always say, trust your body, trust your knowing. And at first it is uncomfortable, right? Especially if you're like it's a group, you're the only person doing something different, but guess what? Then you give permission to the person next to you to do something different, who gives permission to the person next to them to do something different. And it goes on and on. And this goes just beyond even circle or ceremony or breath work. Like, if the more authentically, unapologetically you can show up in your daily life without giving a fuck what anyone else thinks, you give permission to everyone else around you, right? Your partner, your kids, your friends, your coworkers, everyone. So it's like, but it takes a level of trust. It takes a level of knowing what that expression even looks like, right? Because a lot of people come in and they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know where to start. I don't know if I want to stand up. I don't know if I need a child's pose. I don't know if I need to scream or cry. So it takes, because we're so overstimulated too. So it really does take that stillness and that quieting to come back to center and to say, okay, well, what is the most authentic expression of myself?
Being able to do that, where you do express yourself and you don't care what other people think, I think that takes a lot of courage to do that. But the more that I do that, the more that I realize how many people that are around me that witness that rely on me doing that, so that does sink in with them and really permeate the top layer for them to realize I have permission to do these things myself. And so I think, for everyone that's listening, understanding you being yourself, you being the wild, crazy version of yourself and not giving a shit what other people think is what we need more of in this world.
Yes.
Because other people feed off of that.
Yes.
Your children see that and see like, wow, okay, I don't have to also like try to keep it held together. I can be, you know, wild and free and do my own thing. Or friends or whoever it is, it gives people permission to not feel like we have to be so, you know, in the box for stuff. We're not meant to do that.
Right. And then the other thing that happens in circle, you just reminded me of that I think is so potent, is that we enter a circle, right? And we see how people look, or we have a preconceived notion of them, or we think people, this happens all the time. We think people have all their shit together, right? We look at someone and our mind portrays them in a certain way. And we're like, everyone else has their shit together. It's only me that's forever figuring it out. But then we set our intentions, we share, and you're like, I'm going through that. I'm going through that. I'm going through that. And it's like, you see, it's a universal human experience. We're all figuring our shit out. No one has their shit together.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's for me, the platform of this podcast is being able to share that so that people that are listening go, okay, you know, because they see you come on, you're this beautiful woman, and then to have you say like, here's the struggles that I've gone through, or here's the stuff that I've dealt with, or here's the mess that I've put together, or whatever. It lets other people realize like, okay, wow. You know, I had my niece, who is my absolute fave fan. She came on the episode a couple of weeks ago, and her just being able to say, you know, there's this girl she's blonde and she's pretty and she's all of the things, right? And I'm not that. And I'm like, that girl is going through the same stuff you are, you know? If you look at somebody and you're like, oh, that person looks like she's got it all together, you know? No, she doesn't.
Nope.
It doesn't matter. We all are literally just trying to do the best that we can. It's messy. It's, you know, it's all of the things. Smile at somebody, be kind to someone, do the nice things. Don't think that they're, you know, maybe just because she has a resting bitch face, you're not going to approach her. Like, no, that's the first one I want to go approach. You know what I mean?
Right. So don't assume. Yeah, I think we have so many preconceived notions. And it's like when we sit in circle, when we sit in ceremony, when we set our intentions, it's like, oh, nope, we're actually all human. We're all figuring it out regardless of what it looks like on the outside. So it's so unifying. Like, you know, like we're all just in it together. Yeah.
I'm going to have Creighton come down and do a session with us.
Yeah, I love that.
One thing that I was thinking that I wanted to share with our listeners is, one of the things that you do at the beginning of the session is, okay, we're going to set our intentions. You mentioned that. I'm going to set my intentions for what we're going to release. And then we're going to, so we spend like the first half of the ceremony releasing whatever it is, and then set the second half where you kind of shift gears and then we call in something. I mentioned that because I think a lot of people don't realize if they're waiting for something in life where it's like, okay, why isn't this happening for me? Why am I not getting this? If you don't realize that you have to release stuff to have room to call that in, and it seems like when I say it out loud, it almost seems like such a silly concept. But if you don't like really have a vivid awareness of that, you wouldn't realize like, yeah, it totally makes sense. If my vessel is full, I got to get rid of some shit so that I can call in the goodness, you know? And so when you watch that, it's like, it's powerful.
Yes. I mean, we got to create the space, right?
We do.
It's like if we're calling, especially big vision, big things, right? It's like, well, where is that going to land? Where's the literal space for that? So I think that release is so powerful to come first because we can create that space. And you can physically feel it with the breath work. It's like you're releasing, you're having, you know, your tears or movement or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you come to a point and you feel that lightness. You feel a shift and you feel some space created in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. That's the time to start calling stuff in. You know, that's the time to say, okay, what is it my soul wants? What is it my soul needs? What is it my heart wants, right? What am I ready for now? But until we have that space created to try and jam more stuff in there.
It doesn't work.
No, I mean, you know, and then the other thing that can happen, it's like, if we're really, really actively calling something in and trying to jam it in, well, something else is going to have to go, right? And so it's like we can either be conscious about what's leaving, or it can just, okay, well, and then that's when things fall apart, right? Then that's like those tower moments when things have to crumble before a new way enters, right? So it's like, why not be conscious? Why not be mindful? Why not be intentional with what it is we're releasing so that we don't have to go to that precipice, so that we don't have to go all the way to that tower moment when everything falls apart. And then it's like, well, now there's space.
Right. Now there's room because there's pieces laying all over the ground, which is kind of how I did my initial
That's
intro
very
to
common.
Breathwork. Yeah.
That's very common because for a lot of people, that's what it takes.
Yeah. Well, we think we can hold it all together. It's like, no, I've got this. I've got this.
Yep.
Then you're like, shit, I don't have this.
In fact, whoop,
Yeah,
there it all
everywhere.
goes.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
What was your, so tell me a little bit about how did you get to this point of starting to do this, or just even starting your, I call it an awakening of getting to this point of like being done with the rinse, lather, repeat, understanding there's something more out there. What is that, what did your journey kind of look like to get to that point?
Totally. So I think when I was young, I was always very interested in like different spiritual things and concepts, etc., like reading books and stuff, very young. And then through that 12, 13, I just got lost in the sauce and I was just out being wild, having fun. And then I got sober. So I was 21 when I got sober. And at that point, well, when you get sober, it's like everything falls away. So everyone I'd been hanging out with, fell away. Everyone that, like all the activities I'd been doing fell away. All my interests fell away. So I was like, well, what's left?
Yeah.
And what's left was that I'm interested in meditation. I'm interested in self-expansion. I'm interested in these other transcendental experiences. So I kind of started diving in and coming back to that original stuff that I'd been drawn to, but got distracted from. And from there, I just kept finding the next right thing. It's like when you're following the breadcrumbs. You know what I mean? It's like you don't know what you're doing, but you're going to that next step, and then all of a sudden you find that and you're like, oh, and then this opens up. And then you find that and you're like, oh, now I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I'm in a shamanic ceremony. I'm having a soul retrieval ceremony. I don't even know what that means, but here I am remembering, right? And then from there, it's like, well, that was incredible. I need to find a mentor. I need to find someone that knows more. So here I am finding a mentor. From there, it's like years of my own healing down that path, right? And then it's my mentor telling me, like, now it's time to hold space for others. And then I'm like, well, I don't know what that looks like. And she's like, just try it. And then I'm like, this is amazing. Tried it, loved it, So it's like following those next steps. And I think so many people think that they have to have it all figured out, or they have to, know the exact path or their exact purpose or whatever it is. And it's like, no, we can just put one foot in front of the other, and the right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences are going to come into our consciousness as we're ready for them. And it's being discerning enough to say, that's a path I want to follow. That's an experience I want to say yes to. That's a person I want to get to know more, whatever that looks like, right? So, but I would say getting sober was really the fundamental choice, because when I was drinking, when I was using, I was getting signals and I was receiving messages, but like they were very dubious. What kind of spirit am I connecting to here? You know what I mean? It was darker in nature for sure. And it was very diluted also. Like I wasn't a clear vessel. I wasn't a clear channel. So it's like, it was a lot of different, even supernatural stuff happening, but it's like not of the highest good, not of the highest caliber, So then it's like when you cleanse all that out and you are a clear vessel, then you can hear, then you can connect to God, then you can connect to your guides, then you can connect to your own intuition, your own knowing. So I think for me, that's really what it took, is a full clearing out of my vessel of, anything that was diluting the messages, anything that was diluting the energy, to really get to a clear, concise space to be able to hear, to be able to see, oh, here it is,
Yeah. No, I think that's really important and powerful. I think a lot of people that I run into do drink, do drugs, do whatever numbing, right? I call the big three, which is, drugs and alcohol, food, and TV. And people just numb. If you have the courage to kind of try clearing that shit out, tuning in, listening, right? Getting quiet. It really does open up so much stuff, and it's so much cooler than drinking every day or, going home and watching TV. The amount of TV that is available to us, like you could turn on the TV now and through your whole life and just die and never watch something that's, plays twice. What's the point? Right? You're watching other people live. Like, get curious about yourself and your own life and plug into those things. To me, I think that's where the power is for stuff. And to me, I think holding space for other people, for me, I feel like a couple of years ago, I feel like I've done it longer than that, but really more so like in the last couple of years, really understanding what I'm doing when I'm holding space for other people. It's my favorite. It's my favorite to watch other people transform and be able to have their own awakenings or their own progress on their journeys. It's everything.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
incredible.
prefer doing smaller, like one-on-ones, small groups, large groups? Like where, or is it just kind of a mix for you as far as what your preference is?
That's a great question. I think it depends on where my own energy is. So I actually have my first like big scale group event coming up next month, April 27th. And this is going to be my first big one like that. And like I said, in like a couple of years, really.
Yeah.
I've been doing some small groups. I've been doing one-on-ones here and there. But I just had, for those that don't know, which is everyone probably, I just had a couple of kids. So my son is now 3 and my daughter's 1. And so really I've been doing a lot of holding space for them.
Yes.
And so when, you have to, as a facilitator, you have to be mindful of your own energy, right? You don't want to go into a container where it's a lot to hold space for and you don't have that space or you don't have that energy. So I've been really tuning in, and right now is when, just this last month, I was like, I'm feeling ready. I'm feeling excited, not just ready, but excited. So when I do a big event like that, when I do really anything with my business, I want that excitement. I want that enthusiasm, right? I don't want to do something just because, it's by the book or I need to do it or it's time to do it or so-and-so business coach said I have to do it. I want to do something because I'm really lit up about it. I want to do something because I feel so excited. I just can't wait to share about it with people,
Yes.
And so listening to that internal compass is kind of how I do those events. So for me, I love holding space for big groups. I would say that's probably my favorite. And if I don't have the space to hold, that's not going to feel good for me or for anyone, I'm holding space for.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends, because like through those last couple of years, it's been really supportive for me to hold space for people one-on-one or in small groups.
Sure.
So I really love that as well. And everything brings its own dynamic. When it's just one person, we can really focus on their stuff, right? Like it's all them. It's their habits, their patterns, their guides, anything coming up for that exact person in this exact moment. When it's a small group, we're co-creating, so it's your stuff and your stuff and your stuff. And now something you said might bring up something in this person, some way you expressed might open up something in this person. It's a co-creation. And with the larger group, even more so.
Yeah.
So all are incredible. And I would say for me, I do enjoy them all, but it really depends on what season, what cycle I'm personally in my life.
Yeah. When did you, like you talk about having yourself be clean and clear and like ready to do that. Did you ever feel like you had blocks that you had to work through, I'm guessing, to kind of get to this place where you could really do that? Like big blocks at the beginning before you even kind of started to do that?
Oh, yeah, girlfriend.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Big stuff, right? Big stuff.
Yes. I mean, like I said, the first few years of my shamanic healing journey, I was just working on all my own stuff.
Yeah.
I never in my mind did it even occur to me that one day I would hold that kind of space for someone else.
Yes.
And same with the breathwork. When I first discovered breathwork, I wasn't like, I need to do this as work. I was like, holy shit, this is so effective. What else can I clear out?
Yes.
How else can this help heal me? How else can I lighten my own load?
Yeah.
And so then with both modalities, it's like you get to a place eventually where you're like, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And like, holy shit, everyone should know about this.
See, that's what I think too. I'm like, I want to scream this from the rooftops. I
Yes.
really do. And I feel like a lunatic because I'm like, hey guys, there's another way. We don't have to be like in this rinse, lather, repeat bullshit where we're just dragging around our childhoods like wrecking balls and not even fucking realizing it. Like so many people don't even realize it. And now that my mind has been open to this and I look at people, I literally feel like I'm watching a whole different layer, like a whole different frequency of things that are happening. And all of those people, and myself included before I kind of woke up about that, causing our own suffering. We just cause our own suffering because we don't.
Endless
It
cycle.
is, right? And it's like, and I just watch it happen and I'm like, there's a different way. Come on, guys. I found a different way. And I'm like, this is not new. This is not a new concept, what you and I are talking about. Why has someone else not yelled louder? Or are people just not listening? I mean, I don't know where that is, but I feel that same way. I'm like, oh my God, I want to scream it from the rooftops. This feels so incredibly good without drugs, without alcohol, without destroying your life, without,
But you know what it is, Anne, is you got to be ready to see it.
Yeah. No, you're right.
You got to be ready to go there. Because for some people, they're in that cycle, but they're just not ready to open their eyes, whether the pain is too great or the trauma too much or whatever it is. Until you're really ready, no one can push you into that.
No, you're right.
And I see this sometimes too with plant medicine. People go on a plant medicine journey and then that medicine will take you there. It will show you.
It takes you.
You know, and it's like, but then how is that integration? If you're not ready and willing to see, and yet it takes you there anyways, it's like, it can be very jarring and coming back and integrating into daily life.
Yeah.
So I think with the breath, it's a bit more gentle in that you can see as much as you're ready to. You know what I mean? Because it is. Once you start awakening, once you start seeing, you can't unsee. You just see more and more and more. And like you said, it gives you a different perspective. It gives you a different lens. And it's life-changing. The same people that used to resonate, that you used to love hanging out with, it might just not be aligned. You know, even close family members, the way that they communicate, the way they talk, you're like, really? You know, sometimes. Or people at work. So it's like, the more you start waking up, it can be very lonely and it can be very isolating. So, you know, it's like, it's a process and it's a journey. And I think you really got to be ready to go there. So, you know, we can scream from the rooftops, which I do. I know you do. We want to share it with everyone. But until people are really ready to go there, really ready to see, it's the same thing with sobriety. You know, people can tell you a million times, you're wrecking your life. What are you doing? Stop. And you're like, no, I got to figure it out. No, if I just tweak this, or if I just move it like that, or no, if I only drink that, or if I do it like this, or only on the weekends, right? We think we can control it. We think we can figure it out. And it's like, until all of a sudden we're like, okay, we surrender. Our eyes are open. We can't figure it out, you know? So I think it's similar with a spiritual awakening. It's like you're going through life and you're like, I can do it like this or like that or like that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know what? What else is out there?
Right. Yeah. I'm exhausted.
What other way?
Yeah. No, I got exhausted in my, you know, it's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm literally ruining my own life. Because obviously when you're twisted up in drugs and alcohol, you're not thinking clearly. You're not channeling, like all of the things.
Right. And a million people can tell you, but until you're ready to hear, until you're ready to see, you're not going to see it.
No, it's true.
You know, it's like until you come to that decision with yourself, with God, you're not ready to go there. And so I think the same as, you know, with spiritual awakening, it's like you can tell people like, what are you doing? Why, you know, but it's like until they're there, it's going to be that same cycle. But the best thing we can do is, coming back to what we were talking about in the beginning, is living by example, focusing on ourselves, pouring into ourselves, and then letting that be a living example of what's possible, right? Yeah. Same with sobriety. I remember when I got sober, I wasn't going around telling people, hey, you should get sober too. Hey, you should get sober too.
Right.
Whatever, do what you want to do. Yeah. But my life improved so significantly, so fast, that people around me were like, well, holy shit, I want to try this.
Hey, well, and that's what I get too, right? Is literally, I have people that come, you know, that are in my circle that come in like, what is it that you're doing? Because I want what you have, right? And this is over the last however many years. And I'm like, come on, I'll show you the way.
Exactly.
And so it is. It's more like attraction rather than promotion, which of course they say in getting sober, but it definitely is attraction rather than promotion with any of this stuff. And so it's like, yes, I want to scream it from the rooftops, but the more I scream from the rooftops, people probably think I'm a lunatic because I'm like, hey, people are like,
unless it's those people ready to hear it.
Sure.
You know, which they're out there too, and they're just looking for a way, which is why I'm so happy this is becoming mainstream, because the people that are, and we also have so much information available to us now more than ever. Yeah. Right? It's like before, even when I first discovered breathwork, I was looking online. There wasn't a ton out there.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's breathwork, you know, on YouTube, there's breathwork everywhere, Insight Timer, like so much available information. So for the people that are ready, for the people that do have their eyes open, the community is out there, the support is out there, all of the resources are out there. We live in an incredible time. We do.
The breath works that I've done with different practitioners over the years, it ranges in, I'm going to say intensity. I think I've told you this before and I was embarrassed to tell you, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's hilarious. I've done breathworks with people that was like a hand job in middle school, and I would describe Kseniya as a blowjob in prison on the scale of breathworks, because this is like, holy shit, blow your doors off. And that's why I love to do it with just you and one other person, because if someone's interested in it and I come bring them to you and they're like, what the fuck just happened? You know, and I'm like, yes, ma'am, that's a real thing. But like, to know that that's out there and that's an option, have you grown, I guess my question is, have you increased in intensity? Have you always been this intense? Have you gone and done breathworks with someone else that was on the milder scale of things? You know, what can you say about that?
That's a great question, and that's a hilarious analogy. I'm soaking that in, thank you. One of the greatest compliments I think I've ever gotten.
It's very Anne style, right? Just for everyone listening.
I'm here for that.
Yes.
That's very my style as well. So I would say, both. I've increased in my confidence, right?
Yes.
So it's like when you first start, facilitating, holding space, like I would have something written down. I'm like, at 2 p.m. we start this, at 2:15 I talk about it. And now it's like, I trust myself, right? After leading thousands of people through this, I know that whatever's going to come through is going to come through for the greatest good of everyone there.
Yes.
So that intensity can also build because I'm more comfortable holding that intensity. Do you see what I mean?
I do, yes.
So I think as you, whatever it is that you do, the more comfortable you get doing it, also, the more you trust yourself, the more confidence you have around it, the greater that space you hold can be. And that goes for probably any field, I would imagine. So yes, that intensity has grown. And also, I'm a fucking intense person.
Yes.
Just off the bat, that's kind of what I was talking about before, right? My personality, the things that I've experienced, the things that I've gone through, they allow for me to really hold big, deep space, right? And not everyone is ready for that kind of space also. So that's why I'm so happy there's so many facilitators out there nowadays, because there's a facilitator for everyone, right? Like my type resonates with you because you're an intense, individual.
I like it.
Because we like it like that. We like it powerful, deep, transformative, raw, right? But not everyone is ready for that. Some other breathwork facilitators, they might hold more gently. I've attended different types of breathwork where it's more gentle, more calm, more peaceful, more, which is beautiful too. And some people might resonate with that. Right? So I think that it's good to have these varying levels of breath, these varying facilitators, because someone can find something that really speaks to where they're at in that moment. And then who knows, 5 years from then, maybe they're ready for that mind-blowing, intense, wild experience.
Right.
Or maybe they want to stay with a more gentle, everyone's approach is so different. And I think we really, as facilitators, bring in not only our own experience, but also our own personalities and also all of the tools in our toolbox and also all of our learned life experiences, our wisdom, our knowledge. So it really makes for a unique perspective. And I've attended, when I first found breath, I would attend anything that was out there. I mean, at the time, 10 years ago, there wasn't a ton of events like today. So I would drive an hour, 2 hours just to go attend someone's breath work. And everyone's style is different. And I love that.
Yes.
Because it's a unique experience. It's a unique lens. It's a different perspective. So I think, if everyone was intense as me, I don't know if that would be a good thing. I think it's
I don't think everybody can handle that.
That's what I'm saying, So I think it's good that there's so many different facilitators and so many different ways of holding this space and so many different just forms of the breath, just expressions of the breath as well. So to answer your question, it is intense and I have built in intensity. Yes. And also I think it's beautiful that there's other types of breath out there as well.
I used to think everyone, like if you weren't doing things the same way I am doing things, I'm like, kind of poo-pooing that, and that's, I think, part of where like judgment comes in of why are you not doing things the way, and then I've realized later in life, a lot with this podcast, hearing other people's perspectives of me, I'm an intense person. I live out loud. I live in full color. I am, top of the rooftop kind of gal. I'm a cannonballer, all of those things, but I think that sets me up well for what it is that I'm doing, which it is. I'm passionate about the stuff that I'm doing. And I can also respect other people that have a softer approach, a softer side, that maybe aren't looking for the prison blowjob. Jesus.
Right. But
what happens in this brain is just a lot of nonsense. Belinda's over there cringing, going, how much shit am I going to have to mute out of this episode?
No, this is amazing. Because we're showing up authentically. Yeah. And I will say, speaking to that, right? Sometimes someone will be in a group and they'll be breathing kind of soft and, gentle and whatever. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're not having much of an experience. And then they share afterwards and they're like, that was mind blowing. I had all these visions. I had this, I had that. And I'm like, oh, holy shit. That was just their expression of it, So I think it looks different for a lot of people, and we can't ever judge what someone's experience is just from the outside. We never know what's happening inside, right? Yeah. So I think too, the breath has shown me that everyone's expression is so different and it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and being able to really appreciate those differences, I think, makes a huge difference.
Yes.
I was just going to ask you something, and it just completely ran out of my head, so we're just not going to ask that, I guess. there's so much going on that it makes me like, oh, I want to ask this, I want to ask this, I want to ask this.
Totally.
But anyways, so. Okay, well, is there anything else that you want to share? Would you like to tell people how to find you and come, or I can just put it on the notes or however it is that you'd like to do that. But I think everyone should absolutely look into it and try it and figure it out.
Thank you. So the best way to find me is I actually just started a brand new Instagram. It's called Your Sacred Channel. So this is like launched this week. So it's brand new. So definitely follow along on there. I'll be sharing more about my work. I'll be sharing more about my events, my one-on-one sessions. It's going to be a powerful platform for it. So I'm really excited. And also Abundant Space, both on Instagram, on Facebook, and my website is www.abundantspaceforall.com. And that is where, so I do have a meditation center in Scottsdale, and that runs like a whole umbrella of different facilitators and events and incredible community happening. So definitely tap in with that. And also just, if you ever have any questions about anything spiritual, anything breath, any experience you've had, I'm very accessible. I'm very available. I want to make this understandable to people. I want to support people in their experience. I'm happy to hold your hand, so just reach out to me. I am so available to chat, so thank you.
Yeah, no, Kseniya is absolutely one of my favorite people on the planet. Like, you hold space in such a beautiful way, and have definitely changed my life and my journey. And I continue, like I said, to drag other people in my circle.
I'm here for it.
I know. So I can't say enough good things. So
you.
Reach out if you have questions, and definitely explore that. So that's the end of our time today. Thank you so much for coming and spending time sharing with us. If you have questions or suggestions, I guess I always tell everybody to send an email, but we have young listeners that don't, like, maybe just are one on Instagram. So you could also just DM us or however you want to reach out, but you can also still send an email.
Definitely.
ladies@letsgetnakedpodcast.com. And then do all the things. Share the podcast with people that might enjoy it. Follow us on wherever you follow us. Share us, review, all the things. So that's all the time we have for today. That's a wrap.
I'd love to help you get vulnerable. Let's get naked.